All right, let's talk Wonderman.
Let's talk Wonderman.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I loved it. Everybody's praising the crap out of it. Everybody's like, wow, this is really surprisingly good. And I think one of the reasons why it is like, they took a chance on this. It's an unusual story and it's told in an unusual way for Marvel.
Yes.
The other thing I was going to say is that this is one of the first shows in a while on Disney Plus that really feels like it was solid. Like it wasn't hampered by production problems or world events interrupting things or
That's true.
studio interference and all that stuff. It's very, very well written and just from start to finish, doesn't feel like anything's missing for a change,
Exactly. And this is certainly not a character that people really knew. I'm encouraged that they aren't giving up on the fringes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because, like I always say, and this is a great example of that, you can tell any kind of story in a comic book universe.
Yeah.
And this is not that. And I will actually say this is on me. I loved it, but I actually did kind of go, oh, this isn't necessarily what I was looking for.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, because I know the character going back and I know his iterations, I'm like, wow. So they're not doing pretty much anything according to the comic book version. They've changed so much that it's like, yeah, not really the character. And one of the great things about that character, Wonderman from the comics, was he was an original hard luck character that becomes a criminal and then redeems himself and becomes a hero. And you're like, oh, that's such a good character arc, but they just skipped straight to the he's a wannabe actor. So they jumped past all that stuff. They don't even give you an origin here.
Yeah, they just sort of casually hint at it.
Yeah, and really there's no superheroics really at all. I will say
Couple
that
of scenes.
yeah, a couple of scenes. So the whole time I was like going, are they gonna even veer into that territory? And that had me a little, and I will also say I'm biased a little bit against TV shows and movies are they're in love with being TV shows and movies. And when you get these tales of Hollywood, I'm a little tired of them. It's like everyone went crazy for The Studio, which was, Seth Rogen's big award-winning comedy, which I enjoyed, but Hollywood navel gazes so much. It's like, yeah, the life of an actor, the life on the set, the life of the movie makers. And I'm like, I've seen a lot of that. So I'm like, okay. And I know people when I lived in LA, it's like, oh, I knew a lot of Simon Williams types. I don't necessarily am not that excited about it, even though I think this is cast very, very well. And it's written well. And I enjoyed it. And the chemistry between Yahya, is that how you pronounce it? Literally
Yeah.
Yahya?
Abdul-Mateen?
Yeah, Mateen, I think.
Mateen, yeah.
And, Sir Ben Kingsley, I'm like, wow, great buddy stuff. So good.
Yeah.
So, in other words, I enjoyed it despite the fact it wasn't quite what I was going for. At the very end of it, it redeems kind of what I was hoping for, which is a touch of superheroism and the Marvel universe. It's like, okay.
That was the only part, and it was well done. That was the only part where I think in retrospect, it looks like the studio or Kevin Feige stepped in and goes, let's steer it in this direction so we can actually do something with these characters later that's more palatable to our general audience. Because it's at that point, because you say there's very hardly any superheroics because spoilers for people who haven't watched it.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
Simon Williams, who becomes Wonderman, he has superpowers, but he doesn't know how to control them. He's almost like a mutant who hasn't. He probably is a mutant. We haven't learned yet. Who hasn't learned how to control his powers yet? But by the end of the show, he has, and he's basically doing a superheroic thing at the very end, and it's a great scene.
And also breaking the law, which does make him a little bit of a criminal vigilante type, doing it out of friendship. The thing I did like about, and yes, I think you're right. I think they're probably eschewing all of continuity from the comics to make him more of like a mutant, someone born with this kind of ability or something, instead of, his origin from the comics. But And I also get that this is shoehorned. I think that this was not the project that they started with, but they ended up with something very good, because I did hear that this was supposed to be a Trevor Slattery show. Like, it was just supposed to be
It
about him.
pretty much is. I
Yeah,
mean, not
and
just about him,
that's
but
true.
it's very much about him.
But it wasn't going to be Wonderman. It was just like, hey, that everyone
Oh,
loved that character, and he, was great in Shang-Chi as well, the big comeback. And they were going to do just a Trevor Slattery show, and then they're like, well, if it's about acting, we do have this acting superhero, an actor superhero, and that was very cleverly done. And Simon has a full arc, and they're clearly making the mutant power kind of thing. I'm sitting there watching, going, well, this is essentially like closeted superhero. This is just about using that as a metaphor. It's sort of, luckily, not as bad as it used to be, but the idea of, you have something about you that's intrinsic to yourself, that if it gets out, your reputation's ruined, your career's ruined. So essentially, it is all a gay metaphor, or homosexuality metaphor, the whole way through, including that scene with his ex-girlfriend where she's like going, I always knew, and I knew you were different. And, it's
yeah.
like,
Well,
I
that's
wish
one
you
of many
would.
ways to look at it.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
has something about themselves that they feel awkward about, that they don't necessarily, that they don't have. I mean, there's no need to feel awkward about any version, any part of yourself. Only that you're worried about what other people are going to think.
You're worried about the consequences and that kind of thing of you being open and being truly yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, people have talents that they haven't really tapped before, which is kind of what this is touching on a little bit, that you're insecure about. But that's why, and we're coming at this from different places, obviously, like we
Mm-hmm.
always are, because you're way more, as always, way more familiar with the comic origins of these characters than I am,
I bear that burden.
and also you have a long history with Hollywood that I
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, for me, it does read a lot like, because you look in, especially the 50s and 60s, it eased up, but still to this day, there seems to be a rolling of the dice. Like, do I come out openly and say I'm this, and then will I lose roles because of it? That kind of thing. I have to protect what the public sees me as. So at the end, of course, it's always a very cathartic thing where you're going, at the end of the show, Simon, we don't know what's up for him next, which is great because it leaves it wide open. It's like he could now be dragged, because the whole thing of he has to keep his powers a secret, and they give us a pretty cool reason why. And it's also completely Hollywood logic. It's not about, really, how dare you, it's about insurance companies will not cover you
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you have like unstable powers, or just powers in general, because of what happened with the Doorman, which
yeah. Jamar Davis.
I was blown away that the Doorman ended up in a TV show even
Eh,
more than Wonderman. I
yeah,
was like, oh
and I
my
did look
God,
it
they're
up. It
using
was like,
Doorman.
is this an actual Marvel thing?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And he even has
Also,
the
a very different
mask
origin.
in
Yeah.
the movies. He's got that mask on. So again, there's plenty of winking to the past. But Simon Williams in the comics, for those of you who don't know, was literally like a rich guy, like heir to some sort of big company, which was a rival of Tony Stark's. The money goes, and he's like, oh my God, and his brother, who does become a villain in the comics, he becomes the Grim Reaper, and I'm like, I would love to see this guy as the Grim Reaper. But anyway, so yeah, he is convinced by his brother to embezzle, and he gets caught. He goes to jail, and then Baron Zemo of the Masters of Evil, Baron Zemo, you and him go way back. He goes, look, man, not only will I get you out of this situation, but if you agree to undergo this experimental thing, I'm going to give you powers, and I'm going to have you pretend to be a hero so you become an Avenger. Then, since you're inside, you will take them down from the inside so the Masters of Evil can finally wipe out the Avengers. And Simon Williams isn't necessarily an evil guy, but he's trapped, and he's like, okay. Plus the fact that the experiment that gives him his powers is very unstable. And basically Zemo's going like, you could disagree not to do the plan, but I have this serum that you need every few hours or you're going to die.
Oh,
And so, yeah, he does what Zemo wants, and he shows up pretending to be a hero in the Wonder Man suit, which is kind of what you see in the movie version in the TV show. And there's no Barnaby. He's not a space explorer. All that's for the TV show, but whatever. And the Avengers go, "You're awesome, Wonder Man. Do you want to join?" He's like, "Absolutely." And then he betrays them, and then he redeems himself at the end by going, "This is wrong." And even he and Tony Stark are like, or at least Iron Man and he are like buddies. So he
interesting.
sacrifices himself. This is all in one issue. He had like an issue, origin to death, and he dies. And then his body is sitting there in a coma for years, and it turns out that the ionic energy that within him, basically he was just sort of in a coma, but it looked like death. And eventually he comes back and is full on hero, puts on the red jacket, the sort of safari jacket, has the red shades to cover the fact that his eyes aren't really human looking, becomes an actor, first a stuntman, then an actor, and joins the Avengers again because they're like, "You're awesome." And his
Huh.
brain waves, his mental imprint, Hank Pym, Ant-Man, took basically his consciousness, sort of, and put it into the Vision. So Simon Williams and the Vision are essentially brothers in the comics to some degree,
Wow.
which is why when years later, uh, Vision, when he becomes totally android-like and goes the white Vision, like he
White
is
Vision,
now in
yeah.
the TV shows, Scarlet Witch kind of hooks up with Simon, because Simon's like, "Well, I've always really been attracted to you," and all this stuff. And she's like going, "Well, of course, you're basically Vision, but you're not." And then Vision has to deal with like, "I am jealous of this. He's hooked up with my former wife." That's my Vision impression. And anyway, so soap opera stuff. I love the guy. He especially became fun when he became the actor character. He lightened up, obviously, and he and the Beast, who was also an Avenger at the time, become like best buddies. They were the buddy comedy of Marvel, like Blue Beetle and Booster Gold were over at DC, where it's like they're always fun, they're always joking and quipping, they go out partying at bars and stuff. So I always liked that. It's awesome. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that's where they're going to go with this character in the MCU, but we don't know.
What's interesting about hearing all that, I knew none of that until just now.
I'm glad it could help.
But some of what you're talking about, where Baron Zemo's blackmailing him to help him take down the Avengers,
Yeah.
They'd clearly borrowed some of those story tropes for Trevor's character in this.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yes,
it's
the
a similar
betrayal
arc,
thing.
you know, where the betrayal, he doesn't feel good about it, and then he changes his mind at the end,
Yeah.
and sacrifices himself, essentially, not killing himself, but sacrifices his career and throws himself on the grenade, basically.
I enjoyed the series, but it felt a little, like I said, like, oh, good, another Hollywood comedy drama, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I like everybody, but then once it gets interesting, it's like those last 2 or 3 episodes where, oh, things are coming to a head, and he blows up the place, and then Trevor takes the fall for it. And I'm like, oh, by pretending that I have always been the Mandarin,
You didn't
and
see
goes back
me
into
coming.
yeah,
Love
so
it.
great, so
It
great.
was so great.
I like that they refer to everything in Trevor's life, but the whole Shang-Chi thing gets like one line where he goes, "Oh yeah, no, that I still get texts from that magical place that I was in for a minute."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like that. The story starts off with him apparently coming back to the States after the events of Shang-Chi. And
and then
as
just
soon as
getting
he's
immediately
out of exile, essentially, immediately gets arrested.
the
Yeah.
FBI just hops on him. All that's great. I mean, it does make sense where they pick up him, and I do really think what a great choice they made
Yeah.
with Simon and the actor. I'm glad for him, because he was one of the good things in the Aquaman movies. I mean, he is Black Manta. He took it dead serious, and I was like, oh, if only you were in better movies, because damn.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so much better because he gets to be warm and human, and the stuff with him and his family and his, I mean, the brother is pretty intense. The only reason the brother in the comics becomes a Grim Reaper is when Simon dies, is that the brother is like, I will get revenge for you, and
Oh,
becomes like a bad guy called the Grim Reaper. So it's still out of brotherly love, which is kind of
yeah.
interesting. So yeah, awesome stuff.
I loved it, and I think really what I think a lot of people, we talked both of them. I mean, obviously, Yaya and Ben, fantastic performances. But this is almost just as much a Trevor Slattery story as it
Yeah,
is a Simon Lynn
absolutely.
story, and I love it that we finally get to know a lot about the Trevor character, and he's not just a joke, like he was in Iron Man 3.
Well, they had more time. I always say
Yeah,
that that's the benefit of it being a series than a
yeah,
movie, is that
exactly.
there's more time to. It's very touching. All of his stories about his past, and he had other successes, but by the time it was all drugs and nonsense, and by the time it comes around to like, I got hired to play the part of this terrorist, is like,
Yeah,
I wasn't even sure where I was half the time,
yeah,
and
yeah. And
but yeah, him pulling up pictures of him and his mom is like, yeah, that's me and my mom right there, and
yeah.
you're like, I love this guy.
And this is one of the things that I don't know if you caught that. You were probably more. It sounded like you were more kind of like ho hum about the whole Hollywood angle story.
Bit, and it makes me feel like everyone's going crazy for the show, and I'm like, I liked it, guys. I didn't
here's
love
something
it
I'm going
quite
to
the way
tell you.
you
It might
did.
help you maybe if you rewatch it. It might help you
I'm
enjoy it
definitely
more.
going to rewatch it
Because I kept getting pulled back, and I'm sure this wasn't necessarily intentional, but I kept getting reminded of Into the Night, which
Oh, really?
also, it's not in Hollywood
Yeah.
story. It does take place in LA though, and all these celebrity cameos,
Yes,
the whole
yes,
thing, playing
yes.
fictional characters in Into the
Right.
Night. In this series, they're playing themselves, which is hilarious. We've got Joe
Yes.
Pantoliano,
Joey Pants Pantoliano.
Pantoliano. Well, he showed up, and I was like, "What's that guy?" And then they dropped with some clever dialogue that he's actually playing himself, and I was like, "Oh, but he's an asshole version of himself."
Yes.
Who gets totally taken down by Simon's
Who
character.
shoved Trevor out of his the show, and then later on he also ends up playing Barnaby in the Wonderman movie. Yes, that was great. And the Josh Gad thing with like,
Yeah,
and I've seen people posting on social media, it's like, find Josh, where's Josh?
the Joey Pants scene was so well placed because that was a well written scene where Simon's character needed a reason to step up for Trevor's character, which nobody had ever done for Trevor before, really.
You think you're being nice, but you're actually condescending as shit. Do you know that?
There's a story that we learned in the series that he's an incredibly talented guy who has been crippled by alcoholism. And we never knew that before.
Acting isn't a job. It's a calling.
And the whole episode is the two-hander of them just going spot to spot, and each place is learning more about each other. And yes, the big opportunity is like, well, I know a guy, we can go film at his place. And you don't even realize, and Simon doesn't realize until they're there, it's like, what a big sacrifice that is of him kind of groveling. Can we just borrow? And, Joey's cool until basically he's called on his shit. And then that's the whole thing of Simon, like you said, he's like going, it doesn't matter if I miss this opportunity, but I'm not doing this here because you're an asshole to Trevor, and you fucked him over. That was such a good episode, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course it ends with them and he takes the SIM card thing out of that was the birthday of the party episode. Yeah, that's great because all through the show they're both learning and leaning on each other and deciding how far they'll go for each other, even if the other guy doesn't know. And especially Trevor has the guilt of working with the Department of Damage Control, which again, talk about from the comics to the movies. Like Damage Control, I think first showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home, at least as far as the MCU. It was post they were the ones cleaning up for the Battle of New York.
Oh, they were in Homecoming. They were in Homecoming, the very first Spider-Man.
Oh, Homecoming, right? Homecoming, and because the Vulture loses his job because they took over. Damage Control in the comics literally is like a contractor group that just cleans up after big superhero battles. And they even did miniseries where you get to know the normal human people who work for damage control. And like, Thor just took down the Midgard serpent in the middle of Central Park, and we got to go clean it up. Now they've become, because SHIELD has been disbanded in the MCU. Now they're kind of like this governmental group. So they've really transmogrified it into they're like the CIA or something, and
Yeah.
in charge of. I like how they go, we have this big prison, but we got no one to put in it.
Yeah.
Like,
That was
we
the
need
one
people
part
with
of
powers.
one part of the story I thought was just a little weak, that the only reason they're tracking Simon down is because of quotas,
Yeah.
That's not a
And
very
then
compelling
the whole
story
idea of
thing.
just, sadly, it's a little bit like ICE, where it's they're looking for people with powers, whether they've done anything wrong or not. So just the fact that you have powers, they're following you and targeting you. And they have some evidence to suggest that Simon Williams' powers may be unstable, but the events they talk about in Simon's past where his powers came out are pretty small. It's like that fire, and
Mhm.
that fire, and he did, of course, demolish that beautiful kitchen island. But you're like, how is this guy being tracked by the government for these
Yeah.
little outbursts?
What
Not
would
quite
have
sure.
made more sense in retrospect and thinking about it is like the whole thing with the quotas, I think, was kind of a silly, unnecessary plot element. That if that event in the show where he loses his temper in his apartment and causes a explosion there, which people would have heard and their agency would have been able to detect, maybe they pinpoint it to his apartment and then they say, we need to find out what this guy is, and that's what starts the whole thing.
That would have been a good starting point. That's true.
I mean, why not?
And I kept expecting Simon to walk out of his apartment and go, "Do you guys feel that quake?"
Yeah.
They never actually gave
weird.
him. Yeah, it's sure weird. It messed up my wall. That was pretty great when you get. I mean, again, it's really well done when Trevor goes in and when Simon's off in the bathroom, he takes down the big thing and sees just the impact mark on the wall, and he's like, yeah, he's okay, all right.
Yeah.
When the powers do go off, I'm sitting there going, every time his eyes would flare up, I'm like going, that's like in the comics. Which is something that my neighbors are used to hearing me going, that's like in the comics. That's why I'm gonna shut up in there. That's also like in the comics. But they handled it all very well, and the conceit that Wonder Man is a fictional character in the MCU that had a movie like in the 80s it's clever. It's like, that's great. And even in the movie, they have a very comic kind of accurate Wonder Man, except for, like I said, they make him a little bit like Flash Gordon, which is not the guy in the comics, but still it was cute. And the idea that he was such a hero worshiper of that character, he's like, I have to do that part. And the whole thing about, I want to have the exact same glasses that he wore, like that old stuff. I'm like, he's a fanboy too, which, that's kind of like, oh, I get that. And when he's in his Wonder Man suit for the filming of the movie, it is like, God damn, there he is. He's in the Wonder Man suit. And then he has a red coat on at the premiere and stuff. That's all very cool. And
you know what I thought was funny? I apparently I'm alone in this. Maybe somebody else did.
You are alone.
But the fictional version of Wonder Man in the movie, I thought, because I thought this all the way back to when the trailers first started coming out. I thought that was a cameo by Christian Bale. I thought Christian Bale was in that outfit.
Oh no, yeah.
But I forget the actor's name. It's some other dude. But I was like, I kept googling it, going, really? Nobody?
It was like a cameo,
like
of
an
an
uncredited
actual
cameo thing. Yeah.
No, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't see you're always seeing Bale. I would say you're always looking for Bale in everything. I remember you were watching that Tori Spelling TV movie about Mother May I Sleep with Danger, and you're like going, I watched the whole thing, no Bale. And I'm like, no, Christian Bale's not going to be in that. I always have to explain that to you. I never understand. But that is all very cool. That they did create, I guess, this Barnaby character, because they're like, we have to have a mirror thing of the new take is Barnaby betrays him. But he never had a sidekick called Barnaby. And it's like, okay, whatever. They're just making this stuff up.
I did like too the dynamic of his brother which is, you know, a very tropey thing to have a family member going, when are you going to get your shit together?
Yeah,
But it was
exactly.
pretty cool that usually, I mean, his brother was essentially doing the hard ass father role, but you know, his dad had passed away, and his dad was the dreamer, the guy who kind of got him on this acting thing in the first place. And there was no, once he was gone, there was nobody there to kind of nurture
Well,
him
the mom
anymore.
was very supportive, but at the
Very
same
supportive,
and
but not, not really giving him what he needed, which
exactly.
Trevor was the person who gave him what he needed. But what I loved is when they're at the premiere and he's sitting in the row with his family, and he looks over at his brother, and his brother's like crying because he's so moved by the whole thing. And it's great. You know, it's like his brother wasn't an asshole for the sake of being a dick. He just really cared about him and wanted him to get a shit
and
together.
was worried that it was never going to happen and all that kind of stuff. And that scene between them after like it's over, and it's like, you know, Dad would love that. And you know, it's like, oh yeah, feels. Big feels.
Great stuff. It's great stuff.
No, it was great. And again, I was enjoying the whole thing and going, where are you going with this character? And then they give us that thing at the end, which I know may feel like studio tack on, but I think it is just to open that story up and say, yeah, he's there. I have a feeling one of the things that threw me a little bit, this is whether or not I didn't need him to be, you know, punching supervillains. And I remember when we were talking about when it was first coming out and they were showing that, I was like, they still haven't said who the villain is, because there wasn't one. The whole thing really wasn't. I mean, damage control to some extent, but this was so interior, and that is odd for a superhero thing, which I admit, there are things about a superhero show that I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And instead, he's not heroic, except for at the end. He's a likable guy, but the entire show is him somewhat selfishly pursuing something that he needs, that he wants. And it is something that has nothing to do with helping other people. And so, I'm like, oh, what's the hero here? Just that he has the courage to keep trying. I mean, that's heroic, sure. So part of me was just sitting there going like, oh, it's not really. And I had to remove myself a little bit and go, right. This is not what they're trying to do here. And, you know, will he ever stand up for other people? Like, let's say another alien invasion happened and Simon Williams is there. Will he jump into the fray and like fight? You know, maybe he'll end up being an actual hero. Or maybe he just continues to be an actor guy.
That's the feeling I get. Yeah, I think that he's going to basically be that version of Simon Williams now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do get that feeling that it's kind of cool. That's one of the aspects of the story I really liked, is that this is not only just a great character story, a great character, study, but seeing more about the MCU in particular is that this whole idea that there are probably thousands of people like him around, on the planet who are suppressing their powers because they're scared. They don't want people to know about them. And thus this is going to be leading into the mutant.
It does. It does feel like an opening salvo into the distrust of people with powers, which they've kind of seeded in some of the other shows, though, you know, like She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters is publicly She-Hulk. They know her. And by the way, I heard that Tatiana Maslany's out. I hate that. Yeah, and I think it's just because, she's got problems with Disney, but also I think that show got dumped on so hard and it's not fair. But anyway,
it's a shame.
I mean, I hope they don't get rid of She-Hulk, the character, but you had such a great actress. So whatever. But so I mean, she has embraced it, but there are plenty of things, especially like Ms. Marvel, where it's like, I am still a teen and I can't really be out. And, you know, it's like, oh, what if my family finds out? All that kind of stuff is there, but we're finally seeing like, does the public trust these people? And then you have something very, very public, which is Doorman's powers going out of control. And that's why people are like, oh my God, it's not just fun and games. I thought that episode was great too. It had a lot of great commentary on, you know, the allure of fame and then the 15 minutes running out and people like going, he's like, give me something good. I'm doing these dumb commercials. And he's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. But people getting sick of it. It's like, yeah, he has a gimmick and he says, knock, knock. And then people are going, shouldn't he be saying something like ding dong? And all that sort of, I mean, all that was great, but then yeah, that would make people freak out if you're like, wow, there are people walking amongst us that don't need to save kittens out of trees or fight aliens, but have powers. Now they're on talk shows and doing stuff. But if they get a little drunk or a little high or something and the powers go awry, you're going to lose a great comedic actor like Josh Gad.
So what was they hinted a little bit at the origin of Damar's powers in this, that the sludge that he touches apparently came from Roxxon.
Yeah.
And it looked like, because he goes back and it's gone. And I'm guessing what happened is that the same powers that he got caused that thing to just kind of randomly appear there. And then it fell through the ground again and went somewhere else. Maybe is what happened.
I assumed that it was probably...
Roxxon wasn't in that alleyway.
Well, I think that Roxxon may have cleaned up. In other words, that's possible too. Where they're just like, we can't get blamed for any of that stuff, and that was careless. Get rid of that shit, clean it up. But yeah, it's quite possible it fell in. Though I imagine that when he's in that in-between place with all the doors and stuff, it was like you'd probably end up seeing that dumpster sitting in there. Because that's sort of the in-between place. But that's a possibility. The thing about obviously the character in the comics is a joke, but doesn't have that tragic story. He was one of the Great Lakes Avengers, which was meant to be like a comedic group. And I had Squirrel Girl. She was the big breakout. But he was one of the Great Lakes Avengers. So it's like, yeah, an unlikely power, but very cool that he can just like pull stuff out from wherever. He can walk, he can basically teleport into various places. I dug it.
I kept hoping he was going to turn up again, in the present day in the story.
I thought they would actually have Josh Gad appearing somewhere, like he would pop out of something in a weird place.
Yeah.
But no,
I thought he was going to get split in two or something. I thought he was going to have his legs cut off or something.
I actually did think he was going to get chopped in half, and I was like, oh, okay, he just disappears. Okay.
Yeah.
And apparently, Doorman can't find him.
Yeah.
Because, he's like, I'm sorry, the whole throwing up too. That's just very disturbing. They're like, kids, don't do drugs. That was our PSA.
Yeah.
So I loved all that, and again, I do love them being able to take someone like Doorman, but specifically in Wonderman, and just sort of have it over here, just like Werewolf by Night. Satisfied. We may never see him again, even though I've heard that Michael Jean. I
think they are doing a sequel. Yeah, I heard about that.
Because he's like going, I love that guy and I want to do another one. And it was so well received. I'm sure Marvel's like, anytime, man. Anytime.
Man thing. Come on.
I know. More Man Thing, please. Don't take that out of context. Please do not turn that into a soundbite. More Man Thing, please. Though I am going for a commercial audition where I'm like going, more Man Thing, please. That was an unlikely character. And it was clearly him just bringing a strong enough script and saying, I've got the clout. I'm one of the best composers of film music out there, but it turns out I also have a huge love for Jack Russell, Werewolf by Night. Please let me do this. And they're like, yeah, okay, man, go. And it turns out delightful. All of the characters of the Marvel Universe in the comics, just like I tried to explain to my mom when we were talking about Wonderman, I was like, I actually do have a script for a show based on Paste Pot Pete, which is one of the worst villains in Marvel history, because I do think you could take pretty much any character. You want to do Living Laser? Yeah, go ahead, make a Living Laser show. If you have a good take on it, I'm down for it. Whether the broad audiences are. Because I think Marvel does get surprised sometimes. Like the response to Werewolf by Night was like, everyone loved it because it was so well made and it was great. Most people watching it probably never even knew that was a real character. They're just like, this is crazy. I love it. But I guess it is a gamble every time. This is one I'm glad they gambled on. Just like you said at the beginning, I think that this is not necessarily fitting their pattern. But no. I think they're probably very pleased with how it's been received. They're like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Which is why I'll probably get a call about Paste Pot Pete pretty soon.
Any day.
Be like, we hear you got a thing. I do, Mr. Feige. And, you know, Doomsday, I think, will do all right. But until we get to Doomsday, this will do. Actually, what is next? What's the next big
I'm
thing?
not sure what's next. I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to, though, is Vision Quest.
Please.
Or whatever that show's going to be called.
What is it?
The Vision show that's coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Vision Quest.
Oh, yeah, Vision Quest. That Terry Matalas, of course, who show ran Picard season 3 and the series. Shut up, phone.
Are they calling you about Pace Pop Pete?
Yeah,
you
apparently.
just forward that to me.
But those of you who aren't familiar with Picard season, that's really the only thing of Terry's that I've seen, that he proved in that one series that he's very, very talented at tying together really nerdily satisfying story threads in a good way, and doing fan service in a way that actually makes sense to the story instead of having it be completely gratuitous. Brilliant.
Yeah, you still have the scene like them going to like the ship museum, and I'm like, okay,
sure,
that's just so we can go.
But of all the different ways they could have gotten the original Enterprise or the Next Generation Enterprise back into that show, that was pretty freaking cool, and also resurrecting Data again in a way that actually was satisfying.
And bring back holodeck Moriarty. I mean, like,
I mean,
all the little. Lord. You're right. It's just like weaving all that stuff together.
It's just a smorgasbord of nerdy.
There are smart fanboys out there. Fanboyism is not a bad thing if you can sit there and use logic and good storycraft to. Why not thread the needle of all dangling plot threads and just saying like, hey, it's not just fan service. It's like, I actually thought this through. You know, it's like, here's the deal. And so I trust in him. And talk about dangling story threads. After Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and obviously WandaVision, there's so many threads of the Vision and Scarlet Witch storylines that need to be addressed. And I'm all here for that. If they need me, I'll be watching. So yes, I think that's coming up this year. I believe it is.
I hope so. Yeah, I think it's coming up soon. One thing I'm going to condition myself to not be disappointed if this doesn't happen. I've always been thinking this is going to happen at some point, because there's that really great scene in Endgame where Sherry is trying to transfer Vision's memories into another computer, to kind of save him so they can move his consciousness somewhere else before Thanos.
Literally, there's seconds before they break in. Yeah.
And before as she's doing her work and Thanos' people are breaking in, but
first she has to shame Bruce Banner a little bit. Did you never think to? Yeah, because he's like going, well, the neural pathway. Did you never think to do this? And he's like,
right, yeah,
no.
But the deliberate thing about that scene is that she doesn't just turn around and leave. She very carefully closes her work before she turns around and defends herself and leaves.
Yes.
So she saved something.
Yes.
So
probably fragmentary.
Vision's current state, he doesn't have his full memory back yet.
Yeah.
He's got his sense of who he is or who he was, but he doesn't really remember fully.
Well, I believe the whole thing of Vision Quest is just him seeking not just memory, but his soul. It's that heavy thing.
It would be really cool if there's a scene of him going to Wakanda in that show and talking to Sherry, I was like, I think maybe you have something I need. But who knows? They probably won't do it just because I want it so bad. They're probably not going to do it. But yeah,
I want it so bad. They're probably just going to laugh at me. Like,
but that is the kind of thing.
Is this what you wanted? Look at that. Yeah. Oh, it's Vision. He's coming down to Wakanda. This is him. Here's Wakanda. Oh, but you know what? We're not going to do it.
That is the kind of thing that Terry Matalas would zone in on.
Oh, absolutely.
As the kind of
actually, if it becomes, it wouldn't be as satisfying. But and they've done this throughout their shows when they can't really afford that sort of thing. It is like, I just got off. I was like, I just talked to Okoye and the Dora Milaje. They're behind us 100%. It's like, well, we didn't get to go to Wakanda, and they couldn't afford to have the actors come back in. But I just love anytime they're like going, I just checked with Stark, and I'm like, yeah, buddy, I just love it, the world that it is. I mean, the comics did that all the time, and that was what set Marvel Comics apart, especially back in the 60s, is their interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Where it would be, oh, you all right?
I have to correct myself. That wasn't Endgame. That was Infinity War. That was the first one.
That was Infinity War.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, Infinity War and Endgame are all one big
It's one big movie. Yeah.
One big movie. I can't watch one without the other. Like if I crank up the Blu-ray of Infinity War, I know I'm going to be watching Endgame immediately after. I can't just go, that was satisfying. I loved watching everybody turn into ash.
Peace out, Marvel.
Peace out. Someone on, I think, Twitter, and yeah, I still call it Twitter, was saying like if Thanos' snap got rid of, half of all living organisms, that would include the digestive little creatures in our bellies. So half of them would be gone, which means the people that didn't disappear would just be horribly diarrhea and vomiting. It's like, man, that's a horrible thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Thanos. Anyway.
Yeah. Bruce, did you snap back the our mitochondria?
Could you please give us back the microorganisms that we need to... No, I said half of all life gone. Pop. Well, I will say this. Wonderman, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but that's good because it is proof that you can bend a superhero universe and you can offer all kinds of stories. If they're this well done, that well cast and acted, then you got no complaints, man. I mean, it was like, yeah, will he join the Avengers? Probably not. Actually, I'm not sure how he could work at this point because he is kind of a lawbreaker.
Yeah,
so
he's covert.
I did think it was very funny that he was in this huge movie that opened big, and then like just a few months later, he's able to like infiltrate the prison without people recognizing him. Like he didn't disguise himself other than he's wearing like just guy clothes with like name badge. There was one guy who goes, you look familiar.
Right, they do at least touch on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Simon.
That was a little bit of a stretch. That whole setup of him, getting in there because he
I knew where they were going with it pretty much right off the bat. I was like, oh, that guy's going to end up working for the prison. And yeah, I was like, oh, and that was satisfying though, that he goes to all this effort and then just busts Trevor out. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And then it turns out he can fly, which of course he can in the comics.
And that was where we started getting very Marvel-y, where you hear the agents talking about his powers as they believe they probably work, as we see them doing what they're describing. That was pretty fun.
He is made of ionic energy. He actually doesn't even have a body really in the comics. He's composed of ionic energy. He became that way. It was later days. And that was around the time he was hooking up with Scarlet Witch because Vision was on the outs. So all I'm saying is, Elizabeth Olsen, get ready to kiss Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I don't know if they'll go there, but who knows? All right. In the meantime, what are you guys excited for? I'm always wanting to hear what you guys are looking forward to, because we are just reacting to stuff as it drops, and also picking apart trailers and stuff. So if there's something we're missing that you think we should be paying attention to, I want to know about it. I also want to know, is this working for me? You guys liking it? I know I need to shave. And the hair's getting a little long because we're in between shows and I just let it grow. Don't worry about that. Also, is what Chad's doing, is it working for him? Let us know. Anyway, we are... I like you do the male model kind of like, hello. Maybe you'd like me from this angle? Chad, real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I remember one night, I just like, Chad, someday, me and you will be talking about a Wonderman TV show. And you said, no, they'll never. And I was like, yeah, they will. And what's more, we'll be talking about it while I eat Cheez-Its, and I'll be drinking something that looks like some sort of drain cleaner. I predicted all of this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. What can I say, man? I was totally wrong.
I know. You doubted.
You called it.